So moving on to the next topic. So off-season times, there's always the rumors about players and all kinds of talk. But obviously, looking at this year, one thing we talked about on the show constantly was pass rush and having a consistent pass rush, which we did not have. So Tony Pauline of Pro Football Network reported this week that the Packers outside linebacker Za'Darius Smith could be a cap casualty. I think it saves them about $15.5 million if they were to part ways with him. And the rumors are swirling between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Ravens, which Za'Darius Smith did play for the Ravens before he was signed to a big deal with the Packers about 3 years ago. But he was hurt this past season. The years before that, he had a combined, the last 2 years before that, he had combined 26 sacks. The run game's kind of something he's a pass rush specialist. That's what he is. That's what we need. But what are your opinions and thoughts on potentially bringing in Za'Darius Smith to kind of clear up that edge rush position for us?
Well, I like the fact his agent's the same age as Patrick Mahomes. That helps.
Interesting.
That's you kind of put the tea leaves there where probably the rumor or the reports are coming from. But listen, he's been injured. That's a problem. But, he didn't play for 10, 11 weeks. And he came in the first game back in the postseason, and he was dominant. So he's clearly got a motor. He's a younger version of Ingram. I think he's just, push the forgotten technique, push the tackle back, go between the tackle and the guard. Don't always go on the outside. I mean, he's a guy that understands, the gaps and it would be a huge asset. I mean, obviously they're moving on from Frank Clark. I mean, that's not going to happen anytime soon. I mean, I think they're going to get rid of him here shortly. But Smith is a guy that you look at and you say, okay, is he going to be an every down guy? Maybe you bring Ingram back. You draft a young guy. Maybe you go after Agba, from who used to be with the Chiefs. He would be terrific on this defense too. It's going to be a combination of guys, but he's going to want a lot of money. They're obviously going to address the wide receiver position. That's going to cost them a lot of money too. So fortunately, they've got some cap maneuverability and some things they can do. But if the Packers let him go, partially because they're going to pay Aaron Rodgers a ridiculous amount of money on a one-year contract, then I think the Chiefs have a pretty good chance here. It's a matter if the medical guys sign off and, is he healthy enough? Can he play at that position in the manner in which the Chiefs need him? He can be on the field, in crunch time. But if they have a rotational system, even though you're going to have to pay this guy maybe $17, $18, $19 million a year, in my view, if he's healthy, he's totally worth it. He's the best pass rusher out there. And how Beach is. If he sees somebody as the best, he goes after him. He got the best guard in Thuney last year. He hammered it away at Mahomes. He knows what he's doing, and I would not be shocked if he's a Chief.
AD, what do you think? He's a Kentucky guy.
I know it, man. I love him here. He was at Kentucky, man. And I tell you what, man, he's a heck of a player. He's a game changer, no doubt about it. Great skill set, like you said, man. He got hurt last year, but once he got back, it was almost like you was looking for Green Bay was waiting for that piece to get back just to make themselves whole again. Man, he'll bring a lot here to Kansas City if he did. That's the thing about it, right? It's about moving the money around. What are you going to pay him? Like he's going to come at a high price tag, no doubt about it. Just based off his potential and what he's done over the years. I don't think the injury in itself is going to, really change how people are looking at him as much. I mean, it's something that, he was able to, kind of heal up from. And like I said, man, he came out and he played incredible when he got back. That's the thing with Veach, he's going to be looking for some deals, right? He's going to be looking out here to see what he can really sparse through, who's really out there. How can I get this guy down and whatnot? Because that was kind of part of the reason last year Ingram kind of came, this way to us. Because a lot of guys, hey, we want to come play with the Chiefs. Beach was like, okay, hey, but you got to sign up for this. And he's like, I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Money still matters.
Yeah, right. And I like it. I don't mind going for a Super Bowl, but I know I can make his team over here better, maybe make him a Super Bowl contender. So there's going to be some guys out here. I know they're going to be looking maybe. I don't think you get a guy in the draft, but you definitely got to get a guy that is a game changer on that side. Frank, like you said, I think they're moving on for Frank, no doubt about it. save the cap space. And then, of course, it's going to be some good guys out here. I'm just looking right now at some names. I'm really looking at some of the top pass rushers out here and stuff like that. I don't know. Do you break the bank on him? Is that the guy, like, he's the guy we want and we're going to keep him for a long time? That's the only thing. But I love him. I do, man. Like I said, he's a Kentucky guy. I've seen him, man. So he's a great player. He's a great player. Love to have him.
You got that Kentucky. You should be texting him right now.
That's tampering. You can't do that, JD.
Oh, well, yeah, I know it. And,
no, he can't. He won't get in trouble.
Yeah, I might talk to Beach. Hey, Beach, what do you want him for? How much? Okay, I got you. Like, 10% finder's fee.
Get your cut.
Well, I think even if we do, like, let's say 16 million, that's a deal compared to what we were paying Frank Clark. You know, I mean, so if you look at it from that point of view, it's like, okay, that's solid. But I mean, right, with Spags' system, because I've seen so many fans online saying fire Spags, fire Spags, fire Spags. It's like, if you look at Spags when he was a D coordinator in New York, he had a whole platoon of pass rushers, and that is something he has not had since he's been in Kansas City. He hasn't had a whole platoon of guys who go get the quarterback. Right. If let's say we don't get Za'Darius Smith, let's say we go get, I know it's not going to happen. We sign Justin Houston for a little bit. We sign Melvin Ingram for a little bit. We sign, maybe spend a little bit on Von Miller, for example. That's three guys right there who go get the pass, go get the quarterback.
Rotate.
Yeah.
So
I agree with you. I mean, that's the thing with Spags. I mean, he just, that Giants defensive line and those guys rotating. I mean, they run in that Super Bowl. They rushed 4 guys the whole game. And they just rotated them in and out, and they just beat Brady into the ground. If the Chiefs want to win Super Bowls, want to build a dynasty, they've mostly fixed the offensive line. I still think there's some things they have to do, but the defensive line has been woeful. And then it brings the question is, you got a guy like Chris Jones, who's a great guy, a great player, but he didn't do squat in the postseason, for a variety of reasons, mainly because he didn't have any help in the pass rushing, not enough anyway.
Right.
And, Clark kind of disappeared, and, Ingram did what he could, but he's not an every down guy. And so if they can fix that, they can make Jones more productive. They can make him a better player. He doesn't have to be double and triple teamed, if they've got outside. But I think a rotation is going to be key, because you may spend some money on a guy, like Smith. Personally, I think Von Miller would be a terrific addition to this football team. I think he's always wanted to be a Chief. I know he loves Patrick Mahomes. And I think that would be a good fit. So they're going to have to mix and match. I mean, they got Kando they got last year. He's kind of an unknown. We really don't know what he can turn into. But being around Ingram, if they sign him, that'll help. But if they're going to keep Jones in particular, they got to build a better defensive line around him. They're going to have to address nose tackle as well, probably. And there's going to be so many guys available even before free agency begins that they're going to be able to be aggressive with and maybe get a little bit better deal. But I'm confident they're going to fix that defensive line. They're not going into the season and not addressing a defensive line in the same manner they addressed the offensive line last year.
Yeah. You just can't. And like you were saying about Chris, I mean, he just needs help, inside and out. He really does. Mm-hmm. And so, him trying to do it just all by himself. Yeah, I mean, you can see kind of like the frustration, and it's just more pounding on him too. So, like you was talking about, like, Spags, when he uses that rotation, you're looking for fresh guys, but guys coming in who are hungry, right? Who's going to get after the ball. And I could see just this past year, we wasn't getting that. You seen kind of the rotation. Guys just wasn't showing up. And so Kando, jury's still out on him. I don't see the fast twitch. I don't see that from him. And maybe he's gotten better. Hopefully he's worked out where he's getting better every single day with these guys. But that fast twitch, I don't really quite see it from him. He doesn't look like a dynamic guy. I'm not taking anything away from him, but I'm just thinking what they want and what they're looking for, he didn't necessarily provide it. And so I agree with you. I think you get a guy on the outside. You got to get him free agency. Inside guy, maybe free agent, you can actually get a D tackle in the draft. And I think you draft high with a guy like that. So that's the way I look at it. But yeah, no, you definitely got to sew up that defensive line. You have to. If you want to be a Super Bowl contender, you got to start there. Everything's talking about winning in the trenches. Like you were saying, Nick, maybe offensively, maybe some things you need to talk about. But those the trench game, that's where everything is played at. That's where you win the games. I mean, seriously.
I mean, look in your day. I mean, you had that.
Yeah.
You know, you had an offensive line and you had a solid defensive line and you had guys who just, they got it. They knew their roles in the positions and they were able to bring guys in and out and rotate and fill some spots here and there. But, that's just, it is so hard to build a complete roster. You have to be lucky. Right. The Chiefs are in a good position now because the last 2 drafts have been pretty good. So they can go splurge in free agency and they can trust their scouting system that they're going to have another quality draft because they'll have a plethora of cap space this year, next year, and the year after. And they're going to need guys to fill that roster, because I think they only have like 13 or 16 guys under contract a year from a year and a half, 2 years from now. So, you got to rebuild and you got to rebuild. And so for right now, like I said, the last 2 years they've learned, they've seen it. We were deficient at the offensive line. We've kind of always been deficient on the defensive line, but we made up for it the best we could because the secondary was relatively good in spurts. They brought Matthew in. He kind of solidified things back there. But you're right. If they don't fix the defensive line, we're going to be having the same conversation a year from now.
Right.
It just goes to show you, we brought in Melvin Ingram, who a lot of people say he's washed, and
yeah.
He was a huge difference maker. And that was a guy who's not his prime anymore, pass rusher who came in and like he looked like there was some life there. And you bring in some guys with some talent, like some of the guys we mentioned, the Agba, Von Miller. Give me 2 or 3 of any of the guys we've mentioned.
Yeah,
I think we're set.
They'll be fine.
Right.
Yeah, they'll be good.